The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, Jim Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, Loretta Lynch, Stephanie Power, Susan Rice, President Obama. Is it time for us to recognize the heroic steps that these individuals took to protect Donald Trump's candidacy
from the Russians
and our representative Republican form of government from the Russian incursion? Is it time that President Trump acknowledge their contributions and confer presidential medals of freedom on each and every one of them now that we have a better understanding of what was actually happening starting at the latest in early July of 2016, before there was even an official FBI Russian collusion investigation with this FBI spy informant source. James Clapper, who you cannot clap off, so don't try, was on The View yesterday
with the ladies,
hawking his book and reiterating his version of events as it pertains to surveilling the Trump camp.
No, they were not. They were spying on a term I don't particularly like, but on what the Russians were doing, trying to understand, were the Russians infiltrating, trying to gain access, trying to gain leverage and influence.
So why doesn't
which
he like
is what they do?
So why doesn't he like that? He should be happy though.
Well, he should be.
Right.
Should be happy, should be ecstatic, but he isn't. Why, Amy?
Well, because they didn't tell him that was the purpose, and he does not like spies, because what do spies do, Dan? They spy on you.
They had spies in my campaign. That would be a disgrace to this country. That would be one of the biggest insults that anyone's ever seen, and it would be very illegal.
Well, that combined with all of the curious statements from all of those aforesaid American heroes, to hear them tell it, statements that they have made that run counter to other statements they've made or to what is plausible. For example, John Brennan, who is perhaps the most virulent of the crew, he told Congress he didn't know who was behind the Steele dossier, even though both the Justice Department and FBI knew a year earlier that Hillary Clinton had paid for the Steele dossier. So Brennan, the head of the CIA, the world's most powerful spy agency, didn't know who was paying for the dossier. Probably not credible. Investors Business Daily editorial argues that he, as well as Comey, could face perjury charges, at least in substance. We know Jim Clapper's history of not being forthright, his famous exchange with Senator Ron Wyden over the NSA metadata collection program. And then there's this additional report out that Manafort lawyers are suggesting that key Bob Mueller deputy Andrew Weissman is the leak coming from inside the Mueller camp that is providing information to them, even though the word from the Beltway insiders who continue to essentially applaud the integrity of Bob Mueller suggest that this is a guy who runs a tight ship. There are going to be no leaks. It's going to be professional from soup to nuts. I'm not sure that's what we're seeing. For more information on all of the above and perspective from an insider's view and somebody with expertise in this space, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend James Fitzgerald, who, of course, is the famed criminal profiler who was instrumental, as part of a team, in cracking the Unabomber case. He's the author of a series of books called A Journey to the Center of the Mind, and again, that Netflix series.
Oh, that's right.
With Paul Bettany as the Unabomber and Sam Worthington as James Fitzgerald is excellent. If you haven't seen it yet, it's still on Netflix before it gets crowded out by all the Obama shows. You want to check that out. James Fitzgerald, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, it's great to be on. Hi to you and Amy. It was the Monday after the Super Bowl the last time we talked, and lo and behold, it was the same topic.
Yes, it won't go away.
Who would have thunk that?
Well, it won't go away, and it doesn't seem like it's going to improve either in terms of transparency, honesty, understanding. I mean, the revelation of Stefan Halper over the weekend, and then the spin, arguably, I would argue, from Jim Clapper and others as to what Stefan Halper's involvement in the campaign actually meant, how it should be construed. How do you react to all of that?
Yeah, the spinning going on. You could see some tornadoes in the background. Be careful out there in the Midwest, because there's so much going on. Everyone to protect themselves. None of these guys, this rogues gallery you just read off, Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Lynch, Power, et al., none of them expected anything like this to turn the way it did. They are obviously now in full defense mode, and they have to start telling tales every which way they can. They're contradicting themselves, either former TV interviews, testimony in front of Congress, or the books they wrote to sort of protect themselves. And you could see yesterday, I didn't watch it live, of course, meaning The View, but when Clapper slipped out, almost a Freudian slip when he used the word spy, you could see he caught himself right away.
To take it back.
Had to step back from that. So it was it's very telling with these folks trying to spin this whole thing in a different direction. And let me tell you right now, I have worked public corruption cases. That's not what this is by definition, but that's the closest I came in the FBI as a profiler. And I would have some of the agents come to Quantico, and we'd sit around for a day and we'd discuss strategy about how to best approach these people, who are the weak links in the administrative, bureaucratic, political chain, and we would try to go after them. And I'm just wondering, I have no idea whether anybody else except this cabal at the very top of the FBI was involved in this pseudo investigation, but I just wonder if they did have some behavioral elements to it. But I would have, if it was me they came to back in Quantico, I would have said, stay away from this. This is not the way to handle it.
Well,
but of course, they probably wouldn't have listened to me.
Well, if they thought that they were, that the Russians were interfering with the election, they were trying to allegedly protect President Trump, don't they think, or then candidate Trump, don't you think they should have told him that they were doing that?
Absolutely, Amy. This was an external threat, an alleged external threat. We don't even know how legitimate it was. The most I heard is the Russians were buying a bunch of Facebook ads and putting out fake news. No surprise there. They've been doing that since the 1920s. But for all of a sudden, for this external threat, allegedly, into one of our presidential campaigns, and all of a sudden the decision on the top of these intelligence agencies is to put spies inside that campaign, it's just unheard of. It's nothing I never dealt with before and heard of before. This is so off the chart in terms of how this was addressed and portrayed that it's obviously now, and for very obvious reasons, coming back to kick them in the butt.
Well, and per their spin, the obvious follow-up would be, okay, well, then the intelligence estimates from your agencies when you were there suggested that the Russians were interested in helping Trump and hurting Hillary. So then you must have been doubly concerned about Hillary campaign exposure to Russian incursion. And obviously then you've also sent an asset into Hillary's campaign to protect her and our representative Republican form of government, right?
Well, yeah. If it was going to happen, that's if one campaign is under attack by an outside force, in this case Russia, then certainly it's very possible another one could have been too. So put a spy in there. We've heard nothing like that. Wouldn't it be interesting if somehow someone raises their hand in the next few days? Oh, yes, I was sent into the Hillary campaign to do the same kind of thing Professor Halper was doing in the Trump campaign. Of course, well, I would think it would be a lie and no truth to it at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if the spin continues and these guys want to protect themselves. They may come up with something like that.
What about Bob Mueller? He's obviously a former FBI director. I believe you worked under his when he was the head of the agency, and there's been a lot of people that have been critical of the many members of that rogues gallery I mentioned, but have stopped short of being critical of Bob Mueller. They're still sort of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Does Bob Mueller and his team at this stage still deserve the benefit of the doubt?
It's a tough one looking from the outside here. I did work for Bob Mueller directly right after 9/11. He put together what was called the Red Cell, and he copied that off of something the CIA had. And it was me as a profiler. I had a pretty high profile myself back then, and a few other people assigned to headquarters. And there's 4 of us total, and we would twice a week, we'd put white papers together, just like 2 pages long, with several bullet points about, hey, here's what Al-Qaeda may be doing next. Here's the next type of target they may go after. You name it. So I'm wondering if he has a red cell within this little, special investigation unit right now, the special counsel, coming to him like that. I wonder if there was a red cell equivalent for Comey back in the 2016 election, where they're trying to put together some ideas, the best way to come about it. I tell you, if it was a red cell back then, I hope it's been disbanded by now. I have a feeling most of them have been fired or forced to resign. I'll give Mueller the benefit of the doubt still, but the team he assembled seems to be very much one-sided and very much with their own linkages to people that would be considered anti-Trump, even anti-Republican, so to speak. Excuse me. So I'm just hoping I'm hearing through Rudy Giuliani, whatever, this thing may be winding up by September 1st. Who knows what quid pro quo will take place then, whether Trump has to testify, answer questions, whatever. But for the country's sake, there's obviously nothing here except some 3rd, 4th level type of charges against certain people. It's time for this thing to wind up and put it away. And let's focus on a special investigation, special counsel into this rogues gallery, Dan, that you mentioned at the beginning of the segment.
What does it say to you as a longtime FBI special agent, with in particular the story that was out yesterday that suggests there are FBI agents who are hoping to be subpoenaed by Congress because they want to tell Congress what they know about the FBI under Comey's direction? What does that say about kind of the state of affairs within the FBI?
Well, I remember very well the Monday morning we spoke back in early February, and I said to you on the air that I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't somebody in this group that have already been identified. That was the Peter Strzok, the Lisa Page, a few other folks whose names may not ever come out, who are already cooperating with the with this secondary investigation of what's going on. And it doesn't surprise me at all that there are rank and file members, even higher in the management chain, that are coming forth saying, yes, we want to talk. We know what was going on. We were forced. I won't claim a Nuremberg defense for any of these where they were just following, orders, but they were in fact compelled to go along with some of what they saw. They were doing paperwork, administrative work, and they knew what was happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if these people are cooperating right now. There may be people on the inside of this group even that are already cooperating. There may be wiretaps. There may be pen registers up. We're watching who's calling whom after some of these tweets go out. So there may already be an investigation worked against these guys, and this is a well-kept secret right now with cooperators from inside the FBI and these other intelligence agencies, and that may blow the lid even more so off of this whole matter. Or is it an investigation? Or is it a spy operation? I forget.
He is James Fitzgerald, famed FBI criminal profiler, was part of the team that broke the Unabomber case, author of the series of books, A Journey to the Center of the Mind, and his career and the Unabomber case profiled in a Netflix series called, is it called Unabomber? I forgot. I've seen it so long ago now.
Manhunt Unabomber.
Manhunt Unabomber. Right.
On Netflix now.
There you go. You got to check that out. Really good series, good actors, and it tells the story in detail that you probably have forgotten. I certainly did before I watched it. James Fitzgerald, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
And he joined us on